Hello and welcome to TV3's Meet the Candidates program. Connersville's primary election is coming up. It's Tuesday, May. The program is an opportunity for you to become acquainted with the candidates for mayor and council at large. The winners in the primary, of course, advance to the general election. That'll be the first Tuesday in November. And those winning then begin their four-year term January 1st, 2016. We begin with the three men who have filed for council at large on the Democrat ticket. They are Tim Bentley, Mike Gansert, and Morris Green. Welcome, fellows, to TV3 and tonight's program.
Good evening.
Happy to have you here. Each of you will be permitted to give an opening statement, and Tim, will begin with you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Bentley. My beautiful wife's name is Gina. We've got three children. My daughter Destiny is a senior at the high school. I've got a son, Jacob, that's a junior, as well as a younger son that's 12. He's a sixth grader at Eastview. So born and raised here in Connersville. Excited about the opportunity to be your councilman, your voice on council, to help propel Connersville to what I believe is a great future, and I would be honored and privileged to have each of your vote. Thank you.
All right, Tim, thank you. Mike, your opening statement.
Mike Gansert. I'm married to Donna, and I have two boys. Both of them are out of state. I'm born and raised here. I look forward to working with the community and for bringing your ideas to council and seeing what we can do to make Connersville a better place to live.
All right, thank you, Mike. Morris, your turn, opening statement.
Hi, I'm Maurice Green, and I have my wife Amanda and my son Elijah at the high school and Leah over at the middle school. I grew up in Rushville, and I've lived in Fort Wayne, but I've always had roots in the area. We've always come over here with family over here, and I married into the Harrell family down from Orange. But I come here with the knowledge that we have so much potential in the community, and I want to help us move forward with all of the ideas I hear around town, and I'd like to have your votes. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to the questioning. We will begin with Tim. The second question will be asked first of Mike, and the third first of Maurice, and so on as we go through our questions that we have prepared. Okay, Tim, the first question, as a member of City Council, what you consider to be your #1 responsibility?
I think as being a councilman, the #1 responsibility would be to meet the needs of the city, whatever those needs might be, through gathering the facts for each situation, determining the best way to move forward, not only for council or whoever, whatever leadership might have their thoughts, but listening to the people, hearing their thoughts and what they want, because ultimately this is our city, and I look forward to being their voice and trying to, again, help propel the city of Connersville to be a great city that I know it can be.
All right, Jim, thank you. As a member of City Council, what do you consider to be your #1 responsibility? Mike?
Well, I think that with the way the economy is now, that whatever the council can do to retain business in town and seek out new ventures wherever possible seems to be the most important thing right now. All of course within the city's financial means. But I think we have a lot of room to grow, and the businesses that we have here in town are productive, and we need to do what we can do to keep them here. Okay,
thank you, Mike. Now, Maurice, as a member of City Council, what do you consider to be your #1 responsibility?
I think overall we're providing oversight for the town. Many ideas will come before the council, either presented by a mayor or other town members, and it's up to us to look at all of the information, and in this difficult time with different wording of the financial emergencies and things going around, sometimes we'll make decisions that makes everybody happy as we try to move forward what's best for the town. Sometimes we have to say no if we believe that the money can be used someplace else or is desperately needed someplace else. Need to retain jobs when we can and reach out to try to bring other jobs in. And many times that may mean we have to change the way we think and approach things from a different angle.
All right, thank you for your answers. Question 2, recently the prospect of relocating the Babe Ruth Baseball Complex to an area along Veterans Memorial Drive and State Road 1 was brought up. Do you approve or disapprove of this plan? Mike, you're first.
Well, I've been involved with Little League like 35 some years ago, and we had plenty of kids, twice as many teams as we have now, and it seems like, you know, with the current situation that we're supposed to be in with a financial emergency, there are going to be some dollars that need to be spent to move that complex out there on Veterans Drive. But again, I think kind of have to lay it all out on paper and see what's involved, what we have to do. There are other places in town that some of the, perhaps the, what do they call that now, the 5-year-olds and the 6-year-olds where they play, you know, they don't need the lights down there at the ballpark. But to me, the park has been there for a long time. We have a lot less kids that's playing, a lot less teams, and I don't know that now's the right time to move those.
All right, thank you. Morris, recently the prospect of relocating the Babe Ruth Baseball Complex to an area along Veterans Memorial Drive and State Road 1 was brought up. Do you approve or disapprove of this plan?
It's hard to answer that question. As my fellow candidate here has mentioned, we're in the midst of financial problems, and without weighing all the options, see what money is there, to say yes, we should move it when we have declining numbers of children playing, would that money be better spent somewhere else? On the same token, I know people that play down there, many children, and we're facing possibly another flood, more damage. That will also require more money to repair what we have. So we really have to look at, down the road, is it going to be better to move the baseball diamonds and not have to keep paying for repairs, or do we keep it where it is now and try to overcome these declining figures, the declining numbers? We just have to look at the facts at the time. Are there grant monies? If we could get grant monies coming in, maybe it wouldn't be a hit for us and we could just move it out there and have no trouble at all.
All right, thank you, Morris. Recently, the prospect of relocating the Babe Ruth Baseball Complex to an area along Veterans Memorial Drive and State Road 1 was brought up. Do you approve or disapprove of this plan? Tim?
Well, as Mike and Maurice mentioned, obviously money is an issue, but I do believe I would support this plan. I think numbers have declined a little bit, but I believe our youth deserve and should have the best facilities as possible. I believe that we should give our kids and our youth all the opportunities we can find, that we can present to them. As far as the funding goes, I think maybe, as Maurice mentioned, maybe we look at grants. Maybe we you know, solicit funding from area businesses, sponsorships, fundraising events and things. I mean, I think to say that, you know, finances is our holdup, you know, to me, I think as council we have to find ways to make opportunities for our youth and give them those chances to succeed and chances to have a place to play and learn and develop and so forth. And you know, like Mike, I've been involved a number of years coaching them with kids and youth and different things. You know, I've traveled and taken a lot of rowdy kids far, far away, and I believe if we have nice fields, just like you know, a few years back we had the Babe Ruth World Series. I believe that was a great turnout, and you know, I think if we have nice fields, we can bring more opportunities like that to town, whether it be local tournaments or larger national type tournaments and stuff. So you know, I believe we need to be behind our youth as council, and you know, they're our future. So.
All right, thank you guys for your answer. Question 3, and Maurice, you will be asked first on this one. What are your thoughts on the proposed Western Avenue bike path and the proposed Nickel Plate Trail, which would run from 32nd Street north 1.5 miles to Lick Creek?
Well, essentially I would approve of this if there's money in the budget, because kind of, you know, from other candidates, Tim, he was saying that we need to provide opportunities. We have companies coming in that talk about there's not much to do as far as fitness. Where I live, there's no sidewalks, there's lots of hills, blind corners, so riding a bike for, say, exercise is not really an option. And if we want people to stay, we need to provide areas for us to have recreation, not just maybe a basketball goal or the park's great, but a bicycle path might bring an area where we could walk and enjoy nature that's not so far from town. I would approve. I think we should move forward on that.
Okay, thank you. What are your thoughts on the proposed Western Avenue bike path and the proposed Nickel Plate Trail, which would run from 32nd Street north 1.5 miles to Lick Creek? Tim?
Again, I think I would support a plan. I would want to know the details of that. But, you know, like I mentioned before, I think we need to provide opportunities. As Maurice mentioned, you know, when businesses look at coming here, I think Mike mentioned retaining and soliciting new businesses and such. You know, that's one of the first things businesses look at. What opportunities are there?
Yes.
You know, where I work in a manufacturing setting, in a management role, and you know, I deal with companies daily and new businesses, new startups. I help launch new startups, and that's always a question when they're looking at communities. What does the community have to offer? And I know there's finances, that's an issue, but again, I think there's ways that we can try to create funding for that, and it may not be something that we do tomorrow, but maybe we put a plan together that in 2 or 3 years we work toward getting this bike path in place, and we get the community behind it through funding and different type of events to make it happen. And you know, I'm 100% behind giving opportunity. You know, I look back to some of the things that Connersville used to do, and I talk to some people, and you know, they say back in the day we had this, we had that.
Yes.
And you know, that's what I'm hoping I can bring to the table as a councilman is, you know, how can we find ways to bring those things back? How can we reinvent ourselves, you know, and so forth. I think on the historical Facebook page, I seen somebody posted a postcard where other cities were actually coming here to Connersville to see the first cement paved road, and you know, that was a big deal. So at one point, Connersville was a leader in this area, you know, and I believe, you know, it may be a long stretch to get there. But I believe as leaders of our city, that should be every one of our focuses, is how do we make Connersville the leader again in this area.
All right, thank you, Tim. Mike, what are your thoughts on the proposed Western Avenue bike path and the proposed Nickel Plate Trail, which would run from 32nd Street north 1.5 miles to Lick Creek?
It seems like other communities that have brought in bike paths and stuff in town that, you know, they've received them well. That, you know, we used to have a lot of people riding bikes a long time ago, and you don't see them out there as much anymore. That maybe introducing something like this would bring people more to getting bicycle riding. You know, I know they can go up Park Road, but you know, Park Road is you got people walking on Park Road. Bicycles, it's kind of hard. It's 40 miles an hour going up and down that street, which is not safe really. So I think you know, again, looking at what it would cost, what kind of assistance we can get, or what groups in town might lend some money towards that would be a good idea. Certainly a lot less than having to move ball diamonds.
Okay, thank you guys for your answers. Question number 4, and Tim, you will get this one first. Do you believe the police and fire departments are adequately staffed? If not, how would you fund additional personnel?
I only know what I hear, but I believe we could always use more staffing, and I'm not sure. Again, you know, as far as financing, it's something we would have to look at. I do think the fire department and police department is a priority. Obviously, the safety of our citizens should be priority one, and even though some of these other items you mentioned, I think are definitely important. We've got to find ways to make sure that our citizens are safe through the fire and the police department. So, you know, I'm new to politics and never really considered myself a politician, and I really still don't know that I do, but I consider myself a citizen that cares about Connersville and wants to see Connersville better, wants to see my kids have a place to come back to, and with that, a safe place to come back to. So I definitely think that should be a number 1 priority, the safety and the staffing. So that's one of the things I would be ready come January to look at and see, evaluate that situation and see what we can do to make sure it is adequately staffed.
Okay. Mike, do you believe the police and fire departments are adequately staffed? If not, how would you fund additional personnel?
I think the police department and the fire department both seem to be enough staff to cover what they're currently doing, but it looks like there might be opportunities to look at, what other type of auxiliary police or someone that would only be doing a certain amount of things short of arresting people to put the load off of the guys that's out in the cars. But I think the fire department, where the stations are located, seem to adequately serve the areas that they're in. I know we've been using some part-time people and offset some of the cost. I think that's helped quite a bit. But I agree that whatever the council can do to make sure to keep the city safe with fire and police is what we should be doing.
Okay. Maurice, do you believe the police and fire departments are adequately staffed? If not, how would you fund additional personnel?
Well, currently with the locations of their fire stations, they seem to be able to get to most emergencies fairly quickly. But when I talk to my brother-in-law, who's a fireman, and talk to some of the guys in the squads, they're concerned that they don't have enough people. If something really, a large fire broke out or an emergency, would they be able to respond quickly? And I've had neighbors that have seen a fire truck respond to an emergency with maybe just one guy on the truck, and that concerns me. It's not safe. And so if we could find the money and find ways in the budget to cover additional staff, that would increase the safety of our firemen as well as the citizens. For the police department, I know that some of the people around town talk about the news, and we have drug problems and we have burglaries, and that's true of most cities. I think most people might feel a little more, a little safer if we could support more police officers. We have more out there, maybe patrolling and looking at what's going on. The trick is, where do you find the money? And until you sit down and look at all budgets and look at all options, additional grant monies, additional ways you could cut funding or reduce, maybe work with the police about, what can we do to negotiate? Make sure we can keep them, retain them. We want them to be, compensated fairly. But what can we work out so that everybody comes away with this, with feeling safe, secure? But I think it comes back to what I hear around town. We're in this together. We have people that go out and we clean up the town, and we try to make it a place that we like to live in. That's going to be give and take on everybody's part.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for your answers. Okay, question number 5. Give 2 reasons why people should vote for you. Mike, you're up.
Well, I'm born and raised in Connersville. I'm concerned about the town. I plan on living here until I'm not able to live anymore. And I want to see it grow. I know there's a lot of potential. I know what it was. I know what it could be. I've been mostly in healthcare all my life. I've been over 20 plus years in some type of administrative function. I can really analyze budgets and where we can look to save money and increase money. I think I could, help the city move along in the course it ought to be moving.
Okay, thank you. Give 2 reasons why people should vote for you, Maurice.
Well, I really care about the community and the people here. I wasn't born and raised here, but I grew up in Rushville, had family here. I married my wife from here. Been here 7 years. We chose to come here. And when I got my teaching job, we could have been like others and lived outside of town and commuted, but I wanted to live here in the community. I like the people here, that we're all friendly, we're very helpful to each other. So one, I care about the community. I think we all do. I try to bring fresh ideas, and we'll listen to people around me, look at other towns, see what we can maybe bring here, but tap into the potential of the people we have here. We have so much to offer, the historical aspects, the railroad. We just need to try to reinvent ourselves, not change who we are, but maybe use what we have in a different way.
All right, thank you. Give 2 reasons why people should vote for you. Tim, you're up.
The first reason, I believe I'm a hard worker. I believe most people that know me would tell you that, and with that, I'm ready to get to work to help Connersville, to help council, to lead it in a positive direction, to build on what the current council has put in place. You know, I believe Connersville's best days are still ahead, but it takes people rolling their sleeves up. It takes people getting involved, making opportunities for our youth and for new businesses, and as Maurice mentioned, reinventing ourselves in some ways. You know, the things that we used to do, maybe we got to think outside the box. And, you know, I think that's something I can bring to the table with my background, and just find new ways to help and to bring jobs here, to bring opportunities for all ages. You know, our youth, our working class, our seniors. You know, we have a lot of seniors in our community, and you know, we talk about baseball fields and bike parks and things, but you know, what opportunities do we have for them? You know, maybe trying to find ways to meet with them and listen and see how we can meet their needs, and provide those opportunities as well for not just one but all age groups and for all citizens. The second reason, and most important reason, I think, is pretty simple. Maybe a little too simple, but just the simple fact that I believe in Connersville, and I care about it. It's where I was born, raised at. It's where I've raised my 3 children, and it's where I hope to see my grandkids raised at, and you know, playing on some of these ball diamonds we talked about, and things, and maybe to be able to look back and say, you know, hey, me and many other citizens, we were a part of this, and to be able to share with my grandkids the great stories that I've heard, as well as the ones that's yet to come, that Connersville's got to offer.
Okay, again, election day is May 5th. 2 of you guys will be elected. 2 of the 3, the 2 top vote getters, will advance in the November election. We want to wish you the very best of luck, and thank you for appearing on tonight's Meet the Candidates program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fran.
All right, we'll return in just a moment with the council candidates on the Republican ticket. Welcome back, everybody, to our Meet the Candidates program here on TV3. Thank you for joining us, and as we mentioned earlier, this is our attempt for you to become acquainted with the folks that will be running in the primary election coming up on Tuesday, May 5th here in Connersville. We welcome the Republican candidates for council at large. They are Mike Bishop and Gabe Nobby. Welcome, fellas, to tonight's program.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, Mike, let's begin with you, and you have an opening statement. What would you like to tell us?
Well, my name is Mike Bishop, and I've lived in Connersville since 1969, since I got back from overseas. I'm retired from Visteon as a production manager, and I have currently served the last 7.25 years on the Connersville Board of Works. And if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, I think we have a lot of good ideas to put together and go forward with the city.
Thank you, Mike. Gabe, opening statement.
Yeah, my name is Gabe Nobby, and I've lived in Connersville my entire life, with the exception of going to college at Purdue University and Vincennes University. I have a lovely wife and 2 lovely children. I currently serve as a candidate at large on the city council. Really enjoyed that experience and learned a lot over the past 3.5 years. And I'm just really excited to have another opportunity to maybe have another 4 years and see Connersville really grow and blossom.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to the questioning, and we'll begin with Mike, and then you will have an opportunity to answer the same question, Gabe. And then question 2, you will begin with you, and then we'll rotate back and forth like that. So, Mike, as a member of City Council, what do you consider to be your #1 responsibility?
Well, again, Fran, if I'm blessed enough to be elected to this position, I think the foremost and important thing we need to do right now at this time is we need to keep our city stabilized. I believe we're going in the right path with the restrictions that's been put on spending, but we can't afford to just open up the floodgates after this election and just let the budget go. We have got to watch how we spend, and that's my #1 priority, is to keep it stabilized until we can get a window of opportunity where we can see we can move off of it.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Gabe, what, as a member of City Council, what do you consider to be your #1 responsibility?
I think my #1 responsibility, and this is of any elected official, is to serve the public interest. And I think to do that best, we must be fiscally conservative and watch every dime, whether it's a financial emergency or whether it's a time of great wealth. And I think we need to do that every day, especially in these times of need like we have in the city currently.
Okay, thank you. Gabe, this is your question. Recently, the prospect of relocating the Babe Ruth Baseball Complex to an area along Veterans Memorial Drive and State Road 1 was brought up. Do you approve or disapprove of this plan?
Well, I think this is a tough question to answer. That without having more information, I don't know that you can adequately make a decision. I think that there are a lot of factors that go into play. First off, what's the cost going to be? And I'm a visual person, so I really need to see some hard facts and figures in front of me and to really make a clear decision on what I would want to do. But I also see some benefits. As we've seen up in Westfield, up near Indianapolis, they just recently put up a very nice ballpark, and they added a soccer complex, and they're drawing in quite a few crowds and creating some business opportunities some opportunities for local businesses that weren't there prior. I believe I heard on the news that they're actually getting ready to build several hotels in that area to serve those folks. So, you know, I see both sides of it, but until we have hard facts in front of us, I don't know that any person in their right mind would make a good decision.
All right, thank you, Gabe. Mike, recently the prospect of relocating the Babe Ruth Baseball Complex to an area along Veterans Memorial Drive and State Road 1 was brought up. Do you approve or disapprove of this plan?
Well, I believe we all know that our children is our future. And I think we need to do everything we can to promote whatever's in the best interest to keep our children growth interested in something, to keep them off the streets. And I agree with this plan, but to Gabe's point, and I don't want to echo off of him too much, but it all takes money, and it all takes planning,
yes,
and it takes advanced planning. How much money is it going to take? How much money are we going to have? How many grants can we get? How many personal donations can we get? And we have to thoroughly search this thing through. If or a yes or no answer, yes, I would like to see us get it out of that mud hole down there where it's at, because every time the creek gets up, we have to beg people to come down, and God bless them because they come and they help and they work themselves to death.
Yes.
And that's getting to be another thing. It could become a medical issue because of all the contamination that water carries through there. I don't care how much cleaning you do. But I am in favor of it, but for me, I think it's not a long-term issue, but it's definitely not right in the present, because we just can't afford to do it unless, like I said, we got somebody that comes up with a grant, humongously great grant, or we get some public donations. But I think we need to stay on it and not give it up. I really do.
All right, Mike, this is also your question. What are your thoughts on the proposed Western Avenue bike path and the proposed Nickel Plate Trail, which would run from 32nd Street north 1.5 miles to Lick Creek?
Well, there's a lot of pros and cons to this, and yes and no's, but I'm an avid bicycle rider, and I know how dangerous it is when I ride on the city streets. I try to stay on the side streets. But yes, I would love to see Connersville have something like this. But here again, it all goes back to finances. Where can we get the money? Who's going to promote it? How much time does it take to put it in? And it's just like the Babe Ruth thing. I would love to see it happen. I would, because we need more things for entertainment and for people to get off the couch and get out and get exercise. And that's an excellent way to do it. But it's just going to take some advanced planning, and hopefully we get the finances to do it with.
Thank you, Mike. Gabe, what are your thoughts on the proposed Western Avenue bike path and the proposed Nickel Plate Trail, which would run from 32nd Street north 1.5 miles to Lick Creek?
Well, for anyone who's watched the city council meetings or read the minutes, I'm in favor of both those projects. I've kind of spearheaded a little bit on those. I like the idea if we can add any kind of quality of life thing to our city. In the next few years, I was reading some articles by Bill Gates and a futurist named Thomas Frey, and they're predicting within the next 15 to 20 years that all the jobs we currently see, or 50% of all the jobs we currently see, will be gone. So that means there are going to be lots of jobs out there that we don't even realize yet. Many of those have the potential maybe to work from home. So if we want people and citizens to really join our community and be part of it, I think we need to add things like quality of life factors. Things like the bike trail. I'm in favor of it as long as it fits. If it doesn't fit, and then we don't need to do it. I think that if people are unsafe in that area, we don't need to do it. If it's a thing where they can be safe, I think we should do it. As far as the trail, we see people walking down Park Road all the time. Anytime it's warm out, you see people utilizing that sidewalk a great deal. And many of the people my age that have recently moved back to Connersville that are friends of mine desire things such as trails and river access. And anything we can do to add quality of life, I think we should do, as long as there is funds available. And we just really need to be focused on what we can do to make that quality of life, that experience in Connersville, that we can raise our families, our children, our grandchildren. If we can make that better, we need to try to do that.
All right, thank you, Gabe. Gabe, this is for you. Do you believe the police and fire departments are adequately staffed? If not, how would you fund additional personnel?
At this current point, I believe that they are currently staffed at an adequate level. Right now, the financing doesn't allow for anything more. Could we use more police and firemen? I think there's room there, but finances will not allow. And the only way that we could possibly fund that would be to add a public safety tax and of 3%. And I don't think that the citizens of Connersville need a tax at this juncture, an increase in tax.
All right, thank you, Gabe. Mike, do you believe the police and fire departments are adequately staffed? If not, how would you fund additional personnel?
I do believe at this point in time that both of those departments are adequately staffed. But in order to, if we would investigate putting more people on, it all comes back to finances. And right now we just don't have it. And I mean, if you look at the stats in the city, I feel we live in a safe city. And you know, fires is something you can't predict. That's just something there's no way to predict. But I think the fire department does an outstanding job with what they've got to work with. And as far as how would I fund additional personnel, that all goes back to we got to have some revenue coming into this city. And to Gabe's point again, I hate to keep echoing off of him, but you know, I don't want to raise the taxes in the city. That would be my last thing I would pursue. But you know, if people wants to see more of each department, then you know they're going to have to come up with some money if we can't get it out of the resources in this city to help pay for it. They got salaries that has to be paid, and they want it paid when it's paid, and I don't blame them. But I think they do an adequate job, and yes, I think we're adequately staffed right now.
All right, thank you, Mike. Mike, this is for you. Give 2 reasons why people should vote for you.
Well, first of all, I think I'm trustworthy and I'm honest. If people comes to me with a problem, I tell them the answer that I think is satisfactory, and I believe in taking, you know, the problem to the resource. And the second thing is I have enough experience by being on the Board of Works and working with the council and working with the mayor and working with all of the other departments, that it's given me a lot of experience. And with the manufacturing experience I've got at Visteon, those are my 2 things. It's just trustworthy and I'm honest. And I like to be proud of that, because if you can't trust someone, and if they can't be honest with you, then you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And experience is a very valuable asset, and I feel I have both of those.
Thank you, Mike. Give 2 reasons why people should vote for you, Gabe.
Well, if they agree with me, they should vote for me. If they don't, then they should vote for who they agree with. But I believe I'm a man of principle. I have deeply held convictions, and I'm not willing to budge on those convictions at all. I believe I've demonstrated that over the past 3.5 years, and I'll continue to do that in the next term if elected. I'm not afraid to say things that are unpopular or make people mad, and if it's in the best interest of the city. And also, the second reason would be that I have a real purpose, a real reason for making Connersville better, and that's because it's kind of a selfish reason, but I think it's selfishness that everyone has, that they want to see their kids, their grandkids, come back to this lovely community and be able to share the great experiences I've had in my life and to be close to our families. And I believe that's why they should vote for me.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Mike. You guys are the two candidates on the Republican ticket for council at large. You have no opposition, so you advance automatically to the November election. And best of luck to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fran. We appreciate it.
Thank you, viewers, for watching, and we'll be back with the mayor candidates right after this break on the TV3 Meet the Candidates program. Hello once again, viewers on TV3, and welcome to the TV3 Meet the Candidates program. As we mentioned at the beginning, it's our opportunity, for you to become acquainted with the candidates for mayor and the council at large. We have just concluded our interviews with the council at large people, and now we are happy to introduce you to the two mayor candidates on the Democrat ticket. They are Harold Gordon. Harold, hi.
Hello, how you doing, Fran?
I'm fine. Jerry Pennington, hello.
Hello, Fran.
Okay, fellas, we'll begin with an opening statement, and Harold, you're on.
Okay, well, my name is Harold Gordon, and I'm a lifelong resident of Fayette County, and I'm running to be your Democrat mayor for Connersville. I am 66 years old and have been married to my wife, Pat, for 42 years. We have 3 children and 5 grandchildren, which we will be going seeing next week. I graduated from Connersville High School in 1966 and currently employed at Connersville Utilities for 32 years. I enlisted in the Air Force in 1966 and was honorably discharged as a sergeant in 1970. I have coached Babe Ruth, major and minor league baseball. I also coach girls basketball at the Riggin Street Boys Club, and I'm currently coaching the 7th grade team at the middle school. The city, I have served 5 terms on the city council, 1 year on the area planning. I have worked with city budgets in times like what we're having now, where we're having the physical responsibilities, we had that when I first got elected in 1989, and with the input from the city employees, Mayor Bastian, Mayor Newhouse, and Clerk Treasurer Henrietta Rittberger, we were able to balance the budgets with controlled spending and tax draws. It took 10 years to do it, but there were no layoffs or cuts in service to the taxpayers of Connersville. And that's what I'm going to start off with.
Thank you, Harold. Jerry, your opening statement.
Okay, well, Fran, I want to thank you very much for having us today.
Welcome.
I'm born and raised in Connersville. I graduated in 1964. Played on a Spartan basketball team that won 4 games that year, by the way. And I still hear about this. I went to work at Dan-Am, and I worked here about 3 years and did various jobs throughout the city. In 1970, I went to visit my sister in Los Angeles, and I never came back.
Oh.
I just didn't want to shoot screws all my life. I wanted to see what the other half looked like. And while I was in L.A., I ended up owning a moving company, and we traveled the state of California. I did a lot of heavy industrial moving, a lot of industrial moving. I had contracts with Lockheed, Hughes Aircraft, Linton Industries, and did a lot of in-house moving for them. And but my biggest passion was sports officiating, which I did for 40 years in and around the Los Angeles area. High school, baseball, girls softball. Then I gradually trickled down to the last 12 years, I was the chief umpire for Encino Little League. And they had about 1,400 players. And now, needless to say, in California, you go year-round. So it was a full-time job.
Yes.
And then 5 years ago, I came back to my hometown of Connersville, My son was the 101st Airborne. He's now honorably discharged. My daughter, Ruth Ann, lives in Brookville, and 4 grandkids, so it got easier to come back. Yeah, because it got too expensive to travel back and forth, so. But I'm happy to be back home again, and so here, what brings us here today.
All right, thank you, Jerry, for the opening statement, and thank you, Harold. We'll go to the questions now, and Harold, this is the first one for you. It is popular to say we need jobs, or to say we need to get Connersville back to its old self, or the glory days of employment. Specifically, what would you do that would be new and different to create new jobs or attract new business to Connersville?
Well, as you know, friend, there's not much money in EDG. We don't have we're strapped for money. It's hard to get anybody because we're competing with states, other cities, other counties to get these jobs. And I would like to see maybe change it around a little bit with EDG and maybe start putting more money towards tourism, athletics, Whitewater Valley Railroad, anything to attract people here. And hopefully when somebody comes here and sees that hey, this town's a different, we're doing different things, that maybe they would like to locate here, maybe bring a business in, and that's what I would like to try to do.
All right, thank you, Harold. Jerry, it is popular to say we need jobs or to say we need to get Connersville back to its old self or the glory days of employment. Specifically, what would you do that would be new and different to create new jobs or attract new business to Connersville?
Well, I think the first thing we got to do is get a handle on our drug problem. As you know, on the front pages of the Connersville News Examiner, it's one bad thing after another. And people read that. No matter what company they are, they read about how bad things are in Connersville. So I think we got to clean up the drug problem first. And the best way to do that is we'll get a task force together of 2 or 3 people, work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and take back our streets block by block, and then hold it with police presence. The next thing we got to do is get a detox or rehab center in here. Right now, there's not many places for these kids to go to once they're hooked onto drugs. Right now, we're on the verge of losing an entire generation to illegal drugs, and that usually starts at home. So we got to create an atmosphere where we can get them off the drugs and put them back into the workforce, which we plan on creating. Now, as far as jobs go, the days of Visteon are long gone. Nobody's going to come here with 1,500 jobs. What we got to work on is getting the 500 job people in here, and we can do that. Right now, we're sitting on 1.7 million square feet. That's been not being occupied at all. We can do that. But first of all, we got to clean the city up, make it more attractive to businesses coming in here. We got to work on our school system, make it more attractive to people. And the other thing is, when companies relocate, they look for 2 things especially. They look for tax abatements and schools, because they're going to be relocating their children here. That's very important to them. As far as the tax abatements go, I don't like tax abatements, but they're a necessity. You got to live with them. But I'm a firm believer that nothing leaves this hand unless something comes in this hand. But I think the best way to do this is work closely with EDG and just broadcast as much as we can. Over the last 4 years, California has lost 1.3 manufacturing jobs. During that same time period, Texas added 887,000. Now, granted, most of it was in the oil business, but still, why can't those jobs come to Connersville, Indiana? We can do that. So.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Jerry, this is your question to answer first. As a new mayor, you are hypothetically facing an established Connersville employer who is threatening to move their business to a neighboring state. What are you going to do to keep that business here?
Well, to give you a hypothetical answer, A lot of it depends on why is the company moving. Is it because we did something wrong, they do something wrong, or is there an outside entity trying to attract them? So what I would do first, I would find out, I'd go to them and find out what their problem is. Is it more money? Is it a better tax abatement? Or is it the workforce they can't find? But I would go to them and find out what exactly the problem would be. And then we would certainly deal with that. I know we're strapped for money, but if it's an established company that's been here for many, many years, I think there's ways that we could work around certain things and keep them here. Right now, we can't afford losing more businesses. Throughout the 70s, we lost H.H. Robinson, D&M, Casket Company, McQueen Norris. They weren't replaced. Only because Visteon was sitting out here, the big boy on the block. So nobody really cared if they left or not. They didn't replace them. And then what happened was Visteon packed up and left, and all of a sudden everybody looks around and say, gee, what happened? Well, that's what happened. For 20 years, you let these companies go away and never replaced them. So that's what I would do. I would talk to them and see what their problem is and work with them around that.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Harold, what is your answer? As a new mayor, you are hypothetically facing an established Connersville employer who is threatening to move their business to a neighboring state. What are you going to do to keep that business here?
Well, in a way, I kind of agree with Jerry what you would have to do. But I also think, you know, we have to work on, instead of worrying about the bigger ones now because they want too much money, is start working on the little mom and pop shops that are starting up. Work with them and try and get them, because, you know, we give Stantz $1 million a few years ago for 50 jobs. And I mean, the 50 jobs stayed, and they're doing well over there right now. But we have a lot of little places like up there at Ready Tool and Die and all them, and they could use the help, because they could be your Ford Motor Companies of the future. So I think, you know, we try and keep the ones we got, and then let's help the ones that are here already, that we got the money maybe to help them.
All right, Harold, thank you. Harold, this is for you. What can be done to make Connersville more attractive to potential employers?
Well, I think the first thing we got to do is we do have to clean up the city some. You know, we worry so much about unkept properties that we spend, you know, we'll go out, I think we got a grant for 175 and 100, another 20, something like that. And we're using that money to tear houses down. What I think we should need to do is go out and buy these homes on tax sales or the commissioner's sales, which I've seen the mayor did this last time with his money, but it's to tear houses down. Let's take the money that we have, put city engineer back on, and have the city engineer go in and say, hey, this house can be refurbished for $25,000 and all this, and let's take that money and refurbish a house, give it to Habitat for Humanities, let them sell it to a person making $12, $13 an hour. Now they can purchase a home and we'll get our money back. Then we can still go on and maybe tear one down if we have to. But that's what I'd like to do is you know, worry about our streets. They're a mess right now. Of course, the winter was rough on them. We got to get the water off the streets. Water is what tears the streets up, and that's what I would like to do.
All right, Harold. Jerry, your answer to what can be done to make Connersville more attractive to potential employers?
Well, I think this answer pretty much goes along with question number one. We've got to get rid of the drug problem. And not to think about the drug problem. You're not going to get 100% of it gone. Drugs are going to be here, and they're going to be here for a long time. What we can do is we can work on those for at least a 2-year period, and like I say, take them back block by block, street by street, and hold them with police presence. That's what. And then we have to get a drug rehab and a detox center in here to help the people who are on drugs. I'm a firm believer that if you sell drugs in Connersville, I'm going to send you to the penitentiary. If you're a drug user, you're going to go to jail, but it depends on how long. It depends on you. If you really want the rehab and detox, I'll work with you all the way. I'll walk with you all the way to get you back into the work system again. As far as the houses go, I'm not a big fan of tearing houses down. Not unless they're dilapidated and they got mold in them or something like that. But I think, because you have to understand that a lot of the houses and property in Connersville are owned by out-of-town owners. Richmond, Dayton, Newcastle, those are the property owners. They don't care. They rent to anybody and the houses go down quickly. I would suggest to do the same thing. I would suggest the ones that are salvageable, hire some local contractors, go in, refurbish them, and then you can rent them out for low-income housing, which we don't have here, or very few places have that. That's what at least the city can recoup some of their money by renting them out. I know we don't want to get into the real estate business. That's always a bad thing to do. But I think there's some of them we can do that with. And another thing is, I think clean the place up. And by that I mean, don't put your couches out in the front and park your cars or dilapidated cars in your front yard. I mean, we can clean the place up without a lot of money spent. So that's a couple of things I would really work hard on.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Jerry, this is for you. As you may know, the city is currently under a financial emergency, and certain things are in place to reduce spending in order to continue to operate in the black. What is your plan to address the financial emergency?
Well, let me start off by saying this. If I was mayor, it would never happen on my watch. Now, having said that, we are where we are, okay? Because there are just too many, I feel like there's too many safeguards involved here. You got the mayor, the council, the board of works, city treasurer, and somehow it's escaped everybody. What I would not do is some of the things that has happened with the council and the mayor. I would take the first responders off the table. I would not touch them at all. Put them over here. I would take the other city contracts and put them up here and start cutting away the fat. I know some of them are union. I would sit down with the union rep and see where we can have a common ground on. We may not agree on everything, but at least find some common ground that we can cut the fat away. Then bring the rest of them on the table. Once you do that, they will see where we're at, okay? But I'm a firm believer in not touching the first responders. I'm a big fan of them. You have to understand something. In my opinion, I think shutting that fire station down on 35th Street was a bad idea. Only for a simple reason, if there's a fire at Zappa, which we just had not too long ago, who's going to put that fire out? Bentonville? I think that you have to understand that the first 8 minutes of any crisis, if it's a fire, home invasion, armed robbery, burglary, usually dictates the outcome. And so that's a precious 8 minutes. And I think because the city was in a financial bind, putting people's lives at risk, I don't think it was really the way to go. Now, having said that again, I think by bringing it back on the table and look at him again, but I'm a firm believer of not doing that, and it's leaving them alone, and to see where we're at after we do those things, we can try.
All right, thank you. Okay. Harold, as you may know, the city is currently under a financial emergency, and certain things are in place to reduce spending in order to continue to operate in the black. What is your plan to address the financial emergency?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do, being a new mayor, is to find out where all your money is. So I think what I would do is I would ask for a complete audit of the books to know exactly where I've got money, where I don't have money, where there's a little bit of money. I would have to know all that before you start making things like cutting here and cutting there and doing that. You have to know where you're at, you know, and so that'd be the first thing I do. And then, like I said, I would bring everybody on board, because I tell you, you know, the police, the fire, the EMS, the parks, they're all willing to come in and work with us. I mean, just like I said in my opening statement back in '89, the employees were essential in helping the city get back to where it was. Financially, it became sound. And I think you have to involve those people to help you out, because, you know, everybody don't know everything. And like on the drug program, we have a great rough program. That's Rush, Union, Fayette, Franklin counties. They do a great job on drug task force. So I don't see how you can, you know, put anything in that, because we've already got a good drug task force going. And I just think what they're short of is, like everybody else is short of, money. And so, but right now, that's what I'd have to have. I'd have to look at where the budgets are, where any money is allocated for. You know, you might have the money already designated for a truck. You might have it designated for a Packer truck. It's for something. So I'd have to know where all the money is before I would start doing anything.
All right, thank you, Harold. Harold, this is for you. Give 2 reasons why people should vote for you.
Well, I guess number one, I've got 20 years experience in city government, and I work well with people. I work well with kids, and I get along with just about everybody. Now, if they don't like me, something's wrong. But anyway, and my other one is my desire for the city. I love this town, and I'll do everything possible to save it. And you know, I tell some people, it's like, you know, they say, well, what would you do? Well, you know, the city's an aircraft carrier. You got all these other entities, they're ships. All these little, you know, they're your fire department, your police department, your utilities, they're all ships. The main focus is the city has to float. And I understand those guys and all those departments, they understand that. And I believe they will really work with me to make the city a better place and financially stable.
Thank you, Harold. Jerry, give 2 reasons why people should vote for you.
Well, number one, I think I'm not a career politician in Connersville. I haven't been here 20 years. I haven't served the county for 20 years. I bring fresh eyes to a problem. I bring fresh ideas to the problem. And I'm a firm believer that, like I said before, nothing leaves this hand unless something comes in this hand. And I'm a firm believer that things can be a lot better than they are today. Well, I think that if you want to go back in the past 20 years and relive those, then you should vote for my opponent. If we want to have a chance on another Carbon Motors possibly happening, then you should vote for my opponent. But if you want to wake up tomorrow morning and go to a job in Connersville and feed your family, I need your support. If you want the kids to walk to school in the mornings and without finding a syringe in the gutter, I need your support. If you want to support the 2,000 veterans in Fayette County that have to drive 60 miles to get health care, I need your support. We can put up a clinic here in Connersville through the VA. If you want to get a detox and rehab center here, then I need your support. If you want to put together a day labor center, which all 50 states have, but we do not, where people can come in, sign in every morning, and put a hotline number up there, and they go out, and it frees up cash every day. Now a guy can come in and do that and come home and tell his wife, hey, I made $50 today. Let's get some school clothes. Let's pay our rent. Let's put it towards something. Because I've always thought this. Connersville is full of God-fearing, loving people. And all they want is a chance. That's all they've asked for, is a chance. Find jobs, we're bringing jobs into town. We can get them off welfare, get them off drugs, and get them back into the get back in the workplace where they belong. And that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Harold. Harold Gordon and Jerry Pennington are the Democratic candidates for mayor in the primary coming up on May the 5th. Gentlemen, thanks for appearing tonight, and good luck to best of both.
Fran, thank you very much for
You're
your time.
welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yes, Fran, thank you.
You're welcome. We'll be back with the Republican candidates for mayor right after this break on TV3's Meet the Candidates program. Our program of Meet the Candidates continues here on TV3, and thank you for joining us on the program. We have now the mayor candidates on the Republican ticket. They are Brian Daub and David Jobe. Welcome, fellows, to tonight's program.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Opening statements. Brian, we'll go first with you.
I'm Brian Daub. I've lived in Connersville all my life. Short history about me. My parents are Keith and Carolyn Daub. My grandma and grandpa were the Hecks, Charlie Heck and Jackie Heck. I'd like to be able to have your support for mayor. I think I've got a lot of good ideas. I got a lot of incentives. I think I bring a new aspect to the table, and I just appreciate your vote.
All right, Brian. David, your opening statement.
Yeah, my name's David Jobe, and thanks for letting me be here this evening. I feel that I'm a good candidate for mayor because in 2008, I ran for city council and was elected. At the same time, our present mayor was elected. After taking office, Visteon left and the tax caps were put in place. As councilmen, we had to learn how to do the same job and services with a whole lot less money. During that 4-year period, I served as council representative for economic development board, and I worked on many different economic development projects. I also served as the council representative on area planning, where we were faced with many issues during that period. I was elected a second time in 2011 and served District 3. During those years, I served on Urban Enterprise Association Board, and presently I am president of that group. In 2012, the mayor asked me to take over street superintendent. I was the superintendent that implemented the one-man trash truck and has led the street department since that time. I think my record speaks for itself in doing my best, tearing down houses, snow removal, fixing streets, potholes, and so forth with the street department. We have accomplished a lot of things during that time. I have been serving with the mayor of the utilities on the separation projects on, say, Grand Avenue, and we're going to go eventually to 30th Street. And I have the knowledge in the separation products and that it takes for the next 10 years. I feel that anyone that serves as mayor needs to have the background and knowledge to be prepared to lead the city. Thank you.
And thank you, Brian. We'll begin with the questioning with you, Brian. Our question is, it is popular to say we need jobs or to say we need to get Connersville back to its old self or the glory days of employment. Specifically, what would you do that would be new and different to create new jobs or attract new business to Connersville, Brian?
First of all, I think we need to look at that we're not going to get back into the prosperity that we was back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I believe that's gone. We need to be able to mold with the times, to be able to move on with the new changes. There are so many other communities around here that are molding, they're improving their infrastructure, they're being able to do things that's actually bringing new business. And some of the ways that I want to be able to bring in new business, there's a Prosperity Summit that's actually being held soon that Connersville is not a part of. Rushville, Shelbyville, Newcastle, a lot of that corridor along the I-74-70 corridor is bringing in new business. They're all working together. We're not a part of that. We need to be a part of that. We also need to be able to make sure that our people here in town are employable. I know that there's been job fairs. There's been thousands of people come, and most of the interviews and most of the applications have been thrown away because they just don't meet the qualifications. Ivy Tech right now has a current program that they're trying to be able to implement in Connersville, and there's, just for instance, there's one gentleman there that 5 companies, from what I understand, 3 to 5 companies are actually bidding on this employee. The Ivy Tech program is it's more like a job. You clock in, you clock out. It's a job, and they're training you. We need to be able to make sure that we have that here in town. We need to be able to bring employment We need to be able to make sure that people are employable here in town. I also have a 10 rule. If you take, and I would almost, I need to be able to work with the EDG and the Chamber of Commerce to be able to make sure, if you look at a 10 rule, if you contact 1,000 companies in a year and you go by the 10% rule, 10% of those companies, that brings you down to 100 that out of that 1,000 that would have the possibility of looking maybe to be able to either grow, to be able to move. Now, if you take that 10% of the 100 and you're down to 10 companies that are serious about moving, and then you take that other 10% and then you get that one company that comes to Connersville. So if you're able to concentrate on, and you have to be able to make our EDG and Chamber has to be able to work at a goal, and our City Council and our Board of Works and everybody, the whole teamwork have to be able to work at a goal. We also need to be able to look at sublet companies that do business with SAPA, do business with Dresser, machine shop companies that might have other business that they are obtaining or doing business with in Rushville or Shelbyville. We need to be able to work with those companies and see logistically if that's actually more feasible for them to be able to move to Connersville. Wayzata, one reason why they moved to Connersville is because I believe 80%, and I could be wrong on figures, but I believe 80% of their customers were within 250 miles. That's the reason why they moved from Minnesota down here. Up in Minnesota, they were looking at thousands of miles away from their customers. We need to be able to find those companies that want to do business and do business with regional companies that we have here. We also need to be able to make sure that there's Inside Edge. It's a Gary Dick report. There's also so many other factors that we can look at online, social networking or whatever we can do to be able to concentrate. I get the Gary Dick report every day. There's 5 emails come across a day that says who's moving, what they're doing, where they're locating at, who's closing down. There's all kinds of different places that we can look at. We also need to be able to make sure that we improve our infrastructure. Right now, I don't feel that our infrastructure is strong enough to be able to support a very large company. We need to be able to make sure that we got to improve every single day and every single aspect to be able to make sure that the whole town is employable. So that's why I feel on that.
All right, Brian. Thank you. David, your answer to the question, is it possible? It is popular to say we need jobs or to say we need to get Connersville back to its old self or the glory days of employment. Specifically, what would you do that would be new and different to create new jobs or attract new business to Connersville?
A couple of things that aren't brand new, but there's one thing I just really dwell on, and that is keeping the businesses we have here already, to do a good job to try to maintain those jobs, because that's a base for everything. If we lose the jobs we have, we've lost some base factories that we don't want to lose. And Brian mentioned, and I got an email too about the group today from Rushville, the Greensburg and Newcastle and so forth. There was 5 mayors. But I was very disappointed that we weren't involved, because what it was something that people from Connersville in the area of Fayette County that work in these other counties, it was something to pull that group together, because some of those people are employees that go to Honda and go to these other communities to work. We would like to keep them here, but that's just not the way it is today. But I really feel that we should be a part of that, because like they said, the I-74, it's not we should be in this together. We're not that far from any place in the state of Indiana that we can't. One of our problems has always been about Stance Curve and coming off of 70. And sometimes I've seen places that are farther away from the interstate that are doing well. And I think sometimes we use that for an excuse, and maybe it's not. So I think that all in all, we just need to work together, network with other communities to see what it's out there to bring in. Thank you.
Thank you, David. David, this is for you. As a new mayor, you are hypothetically facing an established Connersville employer who is threatening to move their business to a neighboring state. What are you going to do to keep that business here?
Well, I was lucky enough to be a part of the Stant problem that they had about wanting to move, and we put money in and retained those people. We got rules and regulations on how we wanted to do it and what they had to do for the money. And it all worked out really, really well, I think. As there was a few months ago, short months ago, that discussion about moving again, and we talked and we made some arrangements with abatements and so forth, and got that worked out, and then they're going to stay. But I just think you have to do whatever you can do, we can afford to do, to keep anybody that's got employers in the city. And the 5 and 10, 20 person employment thing is great, because you get a lot of little companies say that, you know, like I said, the 15 or 20 employees, maybe somebody else will come in with that and try to expel on that. Thank you.
All right, David, thank you. Brian, as a new mayor, you are hypothetically facing an established Connersville employer who is threatening to move their business to a neighboring state. What are you going to do to keep that business here?
First of all, I don't feel that we're reactive. We need to be proactive. We need to be in these businesses. We need to be able to talk to these businesses. We need to be able to know what's going on before they even come to us. If they come to us with the problem, it's already too late. That's the way I feel. There's so many. I'm in sales. I go out and sell to all these different companies. If I go in and if I let my guard down at all, if I'm not the first one in the door, if another company is be able to get ready to move, I got to be there. If I'm not there, if I'm not communicating with them, they're going to go to somewhere else. And the town is going to be the same way. If we're not communicating with the local businesses that we have in town, if we're not doing what we need to be able to keep the local businesses in town, then why wouldn't they move? Good example. SAPA had several $1 million to be able to sit there and to be able to improve some lines. But because we were reactive and we waited too long, one of those lines got moved to Elkhart. I know that for a fact because I'm doing business with the Elkhart facility too, and they were talking about potentially employing 50 to 80 people. We didn't know that. We waited too long. It was too late, and they're gone. We cannot do that anymore. We got to be able to make sure we talk to every single one of our businesses. I don't care if we got one business in town or if we got 1,000. We got to be able to make sure that we're on the same page with them. We got to make sure we have an open door policy with them, and any communication at all, we got to be able to make sure we maintain. Well, there also is there's other resources we have available. There's a Buy Indiana program, and I don't know a whole lot about that, but I know there's also minority spend, and they call it diversified dollars. In diversified dollars, what you do is there's a minority-owned company that would actually do business with, let's say, like a Honda or a Toyota facility. Those facilities are required to be able to spend about 11 to 12% of their annual spend with a minority-owned company. If we need to be able to bring minority-owned companies here, if we need to be able to start minority-owned companies here that actually give them the incentives, because without those incentives, they don't get the grants from the state and the government, or even across the seas. We also need to be able to involve our state reps and our local reps. Any tool that we have at all at our disposal, we're to be able to make sure we keep them in communication. We cannot let another business leave out of town. We might as well close the doors and turn off the lights if any one of those businesses move out of town. We can't afford it. We also need to be able to find out what the other companies, what the other states or whatever are going to be able to give them incentives. What are they offering? That's the last ditch effort. If they have to tell us what somebody else is offering, we've waited too late. And I'm going to use the Railcom thing because I know that people are talking about how much Railcom wants to be able to use their building. Why wouldn't Connersville to be able to go to Railcom and be able to have another facility that they can move into? We could actually pay Railcom to be able to move to another facility that might be a nicer facility, and then we can actually take back over that lease that Railcom has with the city of Indiana, or the city of Connersville. Then that opens up the door for SAPA to be able to expand. SAPA is landlocked right now. They can't go anywhere. The only where they're going to be able to go, they're either going to be able to go north or they're going to go out of town. We cannot let them move out of town at all. Nobody can be moving out of town anymore. So.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Brian, this is for you. What can be done to make Connersville more attractive to potential employers?
Last thing we need, we are last in every single category. Before I came here tonight and everything else, I would say it's the pleasure, but it's actually the displeasure. Do you know that we ranked 91st out of 92 counties in Indiana in almost every single category? Our median household income back in 1992 was $44,000, and right now it's only $35,000. We've lost $9,000 in median income in the last 10 years, 20 years. We're losing income. We can't do that. We got to be able to make sure that people have money in their pockets to be able to go out and spend. We also got to be able to make sure when companies move into town, and I talked to a lot of these CEOs, the number one factor that everybody has a fire department. Everybody's got a police department. They expect that. The number one thing they want is what their wife is going to say. If their wife is not happy, they're not going to move to town. And I'm going to use their name. Wayzata had one of the wives of one of the owners or one of the businessmen and everything else told her husband, don't ever think that I'm going to live in Connersville because I'm never going to raise any kids and our grandkids will never come here. We got to change that. We also got to be able to make sure, I've heard people talk about contracts. We cannot let any negativity hit the streets at all. We got to be able to make sure we work with our departments hand in hand and be able to make sure we can't come back and complain about a contract that we signed. If we made the contract, we got to live by it. If you don't like it, don't sign it. Work on a mutual agreement between everybody. We need to be able to lift the financial emergency immediately, however we can. Because with the financial emergency, if I'm wanting to be able to come and to be able to do business in Connersville, and if I found out they're broke and strapped, I'm not going to locate my business there. There's no way. We need to be able to get the negativity out of here. We need to be able to make sure that we work on the resources that we have. We have a ton of resources right now available to us, and we're not utilizing hardly any of them, I don't feel. I think that with the airport, we got a connection link with the railroad between CSX and Norfolk Southern. It's one of the only links in Indiana at all. Norfolk Southern heads off to Dayton, CSX heads off down to Cincinnati. But we have a link between those two railroads. We ought to utilize that railroad more. We need to be able to utilize the airport more. Why don't we have hangar facilities for small distribution centers to be able to people to be able to bring in? UPS has a facility in Centerville. UPS would actually be a better fit in town because we have that airport and we have major highways and it's centrally located to everywhere they're going, even if they have to go to Richmond. We need to be able to clean up the downtown. We need to be able to clean up the town, period. Because the way it looks right now, you can't drive down through town, you can't drive downtown, you don't see hardly anything that's going on in town. I've had the pleasure to be able to sit in different meetings with the tourism board, with I promote the railroad. There's so many good organizations in town, but I feel we need to be able to all be on the same page. We need to be able to work for the same goals, not individual goals. And I'm not saying either one of them are working for individual goals, but there's still some animosity of what happens in the past. We can't look back and say, this mayor did this that's in office. We can't look back at 20 years ago and say what that mayor did and everything else, because we got to look for the future. That's water under the bridge. It's things that's already happened. We need to be able to make sure we go ahead and every one of our goals need to look for the future and not look behind. And I feel that we look too much in the behind. We cannot do that anymore. So.
All right, Brian, thank you. David, your answer to what can be done to make Connersville more attractive to potential employers.
Well, I've had the privilege of when people come into town, I've taken them tours of the city. I know just like when Wayzata came into town, I got to take them on a tour of the town the same day, the first day they were here. And anyway, how do you take someone brand new that you're trying to impress? How do you take them through Connersville? Tell me the best route. Well, I always had trouble finding the best route. You're trying to show the school, the hospital, the airport, all the main attractions that we do have in the city. And how do you get to some of those without seeing what you don't want to see or someone else brand new to see? So it was tricky times, and I would have to apologize for things. And I've thought this for years, and I've said it over and over and over, and we just need to go block by block and clean up the city. Whatever it takes to do it, we need to set ordinances and so forth in place if we don't have them to do this. And I don't want to name streets, but we all know if we live here, we know where some of those streets and houses are. I don't like to single anybody out, but I would if I got the opportunity to clean them up. Yes, we are tearing down houses, and rightfully so with the 9 we have right now to do. UEA, I'm on the president of that, and we're taking over those homes. We're going to take the responsibility of them. They're going to belong to us once they're bought through the tax sale this fall, and the city won't have anything to do with that. It'll be us. And then when it's down, then we can take and sell to neighbors, split up the property, and the neighbors can buy it, whatever. We can sell it, and that's how we'll get our money back. But this is not tax money. It's not tax money from residents, is tax money from the companies that are already in Connersville. And with the things, economic development's done some good things, and it's done some things I think are dumb. But all in all, like Brian mentioned with Sapo, we offered them the Visteon building and they didn't want it. And we've offered them several other things. And to my knowledge, we just can't figure out exactly what they do want and what they need. whether behind or not ahead, but something's not just right there, and I think we can get that solved. I want them to be here so bad. It's like with any other company up and down the road. And landlocked, they were landlocked back in the day when remember years ago they were on strike up there, and what was it called? I forget what it was called then. It was extrusion, metal, aluminum extrusion or whatever it was. But they were landlocked back then, so anything and everything they've done, they've known how much ground they have. But I would sure, we got 58 acres up north of town that just sits. It's got water and sewer. You know, I'm sure that if they could talk with Wayzata, that north parking lot, and there's 100 acres across the road, that maybe something could be worked out with that. I wouldn't know why not, and I just think that there's opportunities there. But as far as bringing others into town, like I keep saying, small groups. I don't care about the hundreds. If we needed 100 employees today in Connersville, and I'll say it, I've said it before, we'd be hard pressed to get 100 people to go to work today. We would be hard pressed. The numbers are, and I'm sure they're not any different today than what they were a few years ago with Visteon. Every 100 people that we took through to try to employ them, we were lucky to get 15 out of the 100. And you just, you know, you can't do that. Whether it was drugs, education, whatever, a lot of them would come work a day and quit. But we'd be lucky to get 15 out of 100. And that, we used to interview every Saturday for years, and we couldn't get people. It was really a struggle. And I was around 5,000 wonderful people. A few of them liked me and a few of them didn't. But I really why I'm doing this is because of those people not having jobs. That's why I started this 8 years ago. And I just saw a lot of good people that, you know, at their age, where they were in life, I knew they couldn't get another job very easily, and I've heard ever since, because I was kind of one of those. I ended up being lucky, but I was kind of one of those people. So it's very dear to me to have jobs in Connersville and do whatever we can to straighten up, clean up, and get us going again. I mean, that's just what I'm about, and I think a lot of people know that, and I'll shut up there.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
David, this is for you. As you may know, the city is currently under financial emergency, and certain things are in place to reduce spending in order to continue to operate in the black. What is your plan to address the financial emergency?
I would like to just to keep the course that we have right now. It seems to be working some. It's like yourself, we show monthly receipts that things are down 10%, where we saved a little money here and a little bit. That 10% goes a long way sometimes. When you're dealing with a budget of 13.1, that's 10%. It's a pretty good little chunk of money. So if we can just do that, and I think the contracts and things with police, fire, and utilities, and street department and park, I think we all need to look at maybe one-year contracts or something and adjust as times change, because you know, we keep thinking we're going to hit a home run, and we haven't. And we keep, you know, if you don't have the hope, you don't have anything. But if something would change, we could change and do something for the employees, because they need raises too. They're people. They have their needs and wants that they have, and we've shortchanged a lot of them for several years without a raise. But at the same time, I'm glad they still have a job. But I think there's some things we need to do to try to help those folks when we can. So I think we need to stay the course and see where we're at the next year, 2, 3, and see what we can go with that. Maybe something will happen. Maybe there'll be grants or something that will come our way to help with the police, help with the fire, and do things that way.
All right. Thank you, David. Brian, your answer, your response to, as you may know, the city is currently under financial emergency, and certain things are in place to reduce spending in order to continue to operate in the black. What is your plan to address the financial emergency?
First of all, I think we have a lot of good people in the departments that we have, but I think that in a way, we micromanage them, and we can't let them to be able to do their jobs. These guys have been in their jobs for years. We need to be able to trust them, ask them how to be able to, the best thing for all of us, for the town, for the departments, for the people, everybody. We need to be able to hold our department heads accountable for that fact. If we're going to let them to be able to, I mean, they're a department head, you know what I mean? They should be accountable for what they're doing. If they can't be accountable for what they're doing, we need to be able to replace them. First of all, before we replace them, I would think that we need to be able to work with them and to be able to figure out the best way to be able to go about it. Also, I never did see in town, and I've lived here all my life, but I've never seen where we actually used any kind of timberland. Why don't we timber out some of the, we have some trees in town. Why don't we, you know, maybe it's some old ones at the park that maybe be timbered out. I'm not saying it's the best option, but at least it's an option. I know we have own land up there by the dog kennel or whatever. If we have a land that's not being used for anything, let's plant something. You see people all over town and throughout the county and throughout the state that are actually planting trees. You know, some people might laugh at that, but I tell you what, when you plant for every acre and you're going to be able to get maybe, what, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, depends on what the going market is rate for that time and everything else. Why would we not use a resource that we have here that we're going to have to mow and not try to be able to do anything with it? We need to be able to do something with the land that we have here. And most of the land we have, the old buildings, we need to be able to turn those. At one time they were assets, but no, they're not assets anymore, they're liabilities. We need to be able to take away the liabilities and turn their things into assets. Some of the more in the purchasing side of it, I feel that we need to be able to have a centralized purchase, and I don't think we need to be able to have an open checkbook for everywhere somebody needs something. In example, I've done some research that there's state contracts available for us right now. There's companies, and one of them primarily in town now, that has a state contract. If we utilize state contracts in purchasing, for an example, I went to Menards, I went to Lowe's, I got online, I looked at Grainger, I looked at, you know, Gilman's. Gilman's was the best price other than the state contract. Why can't we turn all of our centralized purchasing and be able to buy from one entity and let that entity go out and to be able to go out and to be able to find, you know, better pricing for us? If they're going to get 5% in return, but they're going to save us 30%. We just saved 25% of our money. If we spend $1 million a year, we just saved $250,000 just by smart buying, just in the way we're buying things. And I'm not saying taking anything away from Gilman's or any local company that we have at all. We need to be able to strengthen that. But we need to be able to make sure that if there's a state contract available that we can actually buy through. I'm also in favor of a two-tier hiring system. I feel that if somebody's hired for the fire department, yes, they do go through the training. If somebody's hired for the police department, yes, they do go through the training. But there's also equipment that we need to be able to buy for them and start-up employees. But should those employees that are working right now, getting hired right now, be paid the same as an employee that's been on there for 20 years? No. There should be vested. They have a perf system that's vested. Why isn't the pay vested? It might be that I don't know about, but that's the way I feel. We also need to be able to do more in grant writing. Tell you what, after listening to the Connersville Speaks, I was impressed with what Diana Wright had to be able to say, because she's done a lot with grant writing. I've talked to her, and I wished I could actually talk to her more. We need to be able to improve that department. We need to be able to get her support. Grant money is money that we're not paying for. We don't have. We could beautify the park. We could do a river walk. There are so many other things. There's grants out there for everything, and we just need to be able to have the time and the resources to be able to put, you know, towards the grants. You know, and I don't want to single out Diana Wright, because I also saw what the other two gentlemen, Mike Bonnelly and
Brad Coulter.
Brad Coulter, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I like what those guys are doing. You know, that was more informative on that show than I've ever seen anything. I had a lot of questions answered by that show. You know, sometimes you have questions about what is the department doing? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Communication is the key. If they're worried about a city employee not doing this, they see him driving around, that guy might have, or that woman might have actually driven around to be able to go get something, to go get a part. Now, if it's continuously, to be able to ease that evil spirit that people have about some of the city employees, why don't we just do something that's simple like a ledger? You know, if a city employee just signs out a ledger or whatever of what their activities were throughout the day, share it. You know, we've hidden so much stuff in this town and people have so many questions. We need to be able to make sure, you know, I'm not saying everything needs to be shared, not by any means at all, but just on some of the questions that people have need to be answered, and they need to be answered honestly. We need to be able to make sure that our, you know, the city people, our employees, everybody, we need to be able to trust each other. And I don't feel that trust is there right now, but we got to get that back. And I tell you what, that That's about the only way. Without trust, you don't have anything. And right now, I feel that we don't have anything in this city. We've got people, we've got employees, and we've got departments, and we got a council, and we got a mayor. But other than that, every town's got that. We need to be able to improve on that.
Thank you, Brian. Brian, give 2 reasons why people should vote for you.
Obviously, I'm energetic, you know what I mean? I'm pretty fired up, you know, because my kids live here. I got grandkids on the way. I want to be able to see this town improve. You know, I feel that I've got some great ideas. I'm still in my prime. You know, I'm not taking anything away from the other 3 gentlemen that's running for mayor. But right now, I'm all over the state of Indiana. I see communities, what they're doing. I see what Ohio's doing. I see what other towns. I see that we lost Boar's Head Food. I see that there's a potential we might lose Sapa. I hope not. I see that Sugar Creek moved right up north. We have a wastewater treatment plant that we're not utilizing. Brad said the other night that we're only half capacity. We got to promote those resources. I'm a talker, but I'm also honest. And I can go out and I could talk to these people and I could tell them, we need to be able to make sure that they know where we stand for. And also, I'm young. I'm 48 years old, but like I said, right now, I know a lot about business. I'm a businessman. I'm not a politician by any means. You know, I could sit there and talk to you all day long, but you could work side by side with me, and I feel that you'd be impressed with me. And I'd really, you know, appreciate your support. I'd hope to be able to get your votes. If you have any questions, I'd want somebody to be able to talk to me, because I'm going to tell you an answer today. I tell you the same answer tomorrow. I'm not going to change my mind unless somebody can actually prove to me that something's wrong. But I want to be able to work with people, and I can work with people. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. David, give 2 reasons why people should vote for you.
Well, I'll give one big reason, and maybe I can break it down into 2. 8 years ago, I was working at Vistion, and I saw people going out the door daily, losing their jobs. And what I saw at the time, I didn't see a lot of action going on about doing something to save money for the city. We were open for business, and nothing was changing. And we stepped on some toes, and when I got elected, and we did some things that maybe weren't the most popular, but they've worked out well. Utilities is one, and we've cut back several $100,000 on the budget since then too. But I saw all these people without jobs, and I got motivated to try to help get jobs for these people. And phone call after phone call I would get about wanting to use me on their resume. I'd do whatever I can to help anybody. And some people did get jobs, but it just hurt me that so many people lost jobs, and they had families and so forth, had expenses with mortgages and things that they had to pay for and didn't have a job to pay for it. So I got on the wagon and tried to help with economic development. My first year in the council, I was the president, and you were there with me, and I appreciate all your support. But we tried to do things to get jobs. We went, like I said before, I've taken many tours of the town with people, showing them the city and showing what we got. We're sitting on a lot of water, and I've not understood why we can't get somebody to bottle water here. I think if we can get the right conveyor belts, I think we can start making water, but bottles. But anyway, we do have a lot of opportunities here, and I don't think sometimes that the common person knows that we try and we try and we try. We beat on doors. We try to do things, but with no avail. And we have done some good things. The economic development has done a few things that has been worthwhile. But I'm all for making this because I've been here long enough to know and see, and people over town, I just want it to be a better place to live than it was when I got here. And I've been here for a lot of years. But I just want to make it better, and whatever it takes to get that, we need a city council that, and I'm plugging them or whoever the candidate might be you're interested in, but they've got to work with the mayor. You can't sit back. You can't let yourself just sit. You got to work with the mayor and try to do better things. Have ideas. Come to council with council meetings with a plan, and that would make things better. I really feel. Sometimes we can sit on our thumbs and be passive, but we can't do that anymore. We have to be upgoing. You know, I'm 63 years old. I guess I'm not 48, but I'm 63. and I'm okay with that because I do get up every day and I think everything's well. But I just think that the city, and like all the departments and all, I think we do a decent job, but there's always better, you know, better things that we could do with our monies and so forth. But I kind of squeak when I buy a shovel, and I just bought 8 of them, so I was squeaking pretty loud the other day. But you know, it's things you have to do, and that's what I try to do. The overtime with the street department, bless their hearts, each and every one of them. The only overtime we have is because of snow, and for some reason, the Lord makes it snow on Saturday and Sundays. So nobody can help that either. But they do a good job, and I can stick up for them because I'm with them every day. And I really think the fire department, police departments do good jobs. I think utilities do a pretty decent job with what they have to work with their emergencies every day that they have to deal with. And everybody in the city, I think, tries. But with the money problems we've had the last year or two, we've all shrunk up a little bit and tried not to spend, and that's not good either. And you got to get the things you need. And I just want this to be the best town in the world when I leave it someday. Thank you very much. I appreciate anybody and everybody's support. Thank you.
Brian Daub and David Jobe are the Republican candidates for mayor, subject to the May 5th primary in Connersville. Thank you guys tonight for appearing on our program, and the best of luck to both of you.
Thank you, sir.
This concludes our program. We hope it has aided you in making your choices on Election Day. Remember, it's Tuesday, May 5th. Polls will be open to 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. If you are uncertain as to where you should vote for assistance, just call the county clerk's office at 825-1813. They can answer all your election questions. Also, early voting is now underway at the Fayette County Government Center, and the voting room is adjacent to the elevator on the first floor. Voting hours are 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday, and also on the 2 Saturdays, last Saturday of April the 25th and the first Saturday of May 2nd, they will be open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Early voting will be concluding, though, at 12 noon on Monday prior to the election on Tuesday. Again, for election assistance, 825-1813, and our thanks to all the candidates who joined us on this Meet the Candidates program. We will see you at the polls, and good evening, everybody.